The Notre Dame Fighting Irish finally, in technical terms, has broken their New Year's Six Bowl losing streak. There were many people being a little bit finicky about whether Notre Dame's win over Indiana counted as that epic postseason win that they had been lacking for so long or not. I think the people that were discounting that were idiots, or at least a bit idiotic in that moment, because look, the postseason has radically changed since the last time Notre Dame won what is now classified as a New Year's Six Bowl versus what was then classified as a major bowl / New Year's Six Bowl. Last time they did that was in the 90s. They've racked off 2 in the span of 2 weeks. Beating Indiana at home in South Bend, which I classify as kind of a New Year's Six Bowl-esque win. And then they go to the Sugar Bowl and they beat Georgia. And they don't just beat Georgia, they punk Georgia. They did to Georgia what Georgia usually does to some other teams. When they beat teams, they don't always destroy them. In fact, for much of this season, Georgia has caught itself a bit with its pants down, but they've always pulled their pants back up. They've rallied, they've overcome adversity, and they've won a lot of football games in close fashion. And Notre Dame did that today. And they also won the coaching battle. They didn't just have the superior players in terms of discipline, execution, and also talent and experience in multiple positions. They outcoached Georgia. And I think that was the biggest surprise to me, and also the most pleasant surprise to me. This was the biggest win of the Marcus Freeman era. This was the biggest win for Notre Dame football in the 21st century easily, and you could probably extend it back into part of the 20th century. For Notre Dame fans, I will tell you right now, it's real. You only have one more game to go before you play in the national championship game. Penn State in the Orange Bowl. And then between the winner of Texas and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, if you beat Penn State, you'll play them for it all. You are there. You are oh so close. Remember back in the 4-team playoff era where it was just good enough to make it, and that was an accomplishment for almost every program just because you were going to be among the top 4 teams, or maybe if you got blown out, you'd still be among the top 10. Well, that's what Notre Dame has reached right now, in my opinion, except I think this is actually a little bit more impressive because Georgia is a top-tier program with, in my mind, the nation's best head coach in Kirby Smart, at least for now. And if he isn't that, which I have a hard time seeing myself viewing anyone else as number one until maybe next year when maybe Ryan Day wins 2 titles, or Steve Sarkisian wins 2 titles, or heck, maybe Marcus Freeman wins 2 titles, maybe even James Franklin wins 2 titles. Regardless of that, Notre Dame finally punched above their weight class. They have not done that in decades. They have not punched above their weight class in eons. They did it tonight at the time of this recording. So I'm happy for Notre Dame. And for Georgia, it's simple. Your starting quarterback got dinged up, declared for the NFL after that because he was out for the rest of the year. You've had roster limitations at wide receiver that you just haven't figured out. And the number one strength of schedule in the country, strength of schedule has a curve to it where the tougher schedule you play, you'll benefit from it a lot of the times because you understand what it's like to play good teams and you learn from it. You become more battle-tested and honed in. And that's kind of, the curve rising. But then the strength of schedule becomes so difficult that injuries begin to pile up. And now you're not gaining experience, you're losing experience because you have so many injuries that you now have to play. You have to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into your depth chart. And also on top of that, Georgia doesn't have an alien player. They don't. And consequentially, with all their injuries, everything has to go right in almost every game to win. Think of Texas twice. Think of Georgia Tech, monstrous comeback win. And at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough here because Notre Dame is better than Georgia Tech. And Notre Dame is a team that I think is more aggressive than Texas in a way that matches up better with Georgia, like the special teams play, for example, the kick return for a touchdown, the getting Georgia to jump off sides in that 4th and 1 with that kind of punt trickery that Marcus Freeman pulled, which was absolutely brilliant. And also, Georgia can run, Notre Dame can run the football on even a team like Georgia. Texas struggles to run the football on everyone, especially a team like Georgia. So, therefore, Notre Dame was better able to control the game and kind of dictate the pace, and that combined with, Gunnar Stockton playing instead of Carson Beck and just his lack of experience threw everything off just enough for Notre Dame to take advantage. Before we continue with this, I do want to remind you all to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video to help us get into the algorithm. Hitting that bell is very important, the notification bell. Just takes a second, just takes a click. So that way you can get notified when we go live and release new content here on College Football with Sam. I also want you, if you don't mind, to comment your thoughts on this game down below. And by doing so, you'll enter yourself into my giveaway. 2 winners of the giveaway. There will be 4 in total. 2 of them are announced at each halftime of the semifinal games. The winnings are a $20 Visa gift card and a $20 gift card to my merchandise store. So by commenting down below, you've officially entered the lottery. But reply to these 2 questions that I have for you. What changes do you think Kirby Smart needs to make at Georgia, if any? And number 2, is Marcus Freeman a top 10 head coach? I will give you the answer to one of those definitively. I don't often like to do these to the questions I ask you immediately, but I will say I think after tonight, Marcus Freeman's a top 10 head coach. When I saw that trickery he pulled, I kind of thought to myself, like slowly I'm like frowning because I picked Georgia to win and I want to be right. But the more I think about it, I kind of smile and the grin grows because I think, finally, there's no more reason to doubt. There's been a lot of back and forth with Marcus Freeman, a lot of back and forth. And also, before I finish this thought, if you want to support the channel monetarily and also join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, we'd love to have Georgia and Notre Dame fans there. Just look in the links in the pinned comment or description, and you'll find what you need. But finally, with all the back and forth about Marcus Freeman, losing to NIU, losing to Marshall, losing to Clemson last year, getting humiliated, outcoached, coached to death by Jeff Brom, losing to Ohio State 2 years in a row, which I don't blame him for that at all, but that just kind of added on to the pressure of, let's say he beat Ohio State both of those years and lost to Marshall and NIU. Well, after those losses, there'd still be a different thought process. There would, because, well, at least we know we can beat the big teams. Before today, it was kind of an unknown. I think before Indiana especially. I thought after the Indiana game, yeah, he's a good coach. But today, confirmed to me, he's a great coach. In fact, might even be near elite. He might be an elite head coach, and we just don't know it yet. Which is understandable, because those NIU losses and Marshall losses, they should stain the jacket. Those are bad losses. But that doesn't mean the stains will be there forever. This win washes those losses just a bit. This is a big win for recruiting, for resource gathering, for engagement, for Notre Dame's blue blood status and history, for Marcus Freeman's resume, for the lives and experiences of his players and coaches and himself on the staff. They punked Georgia. They did. I mean, think about it this way. Georgia outgained Notre Dame. If I tell you that Georgia outgains Notre Dame 296 to 244 in terms of yards, and if I tell you that Notre Dame on top of that averages 4.2 yards per carry on 37 carries and 3.8 yards per pass attempt, you probably feel good about Georgia winning. You probably do. Especially if I then tell you that Georgia averages 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Then you probably feel a little bit better. But then I tell you that Notre Dame returned a kickoff for a touchdown. I tell you that Georgia only averaged 2.1 yards per carry. And that's a little bit deceiving because a lot of that's, based in sacks. Notre Dame had 4 sacks for gobs of lost yardage. Georgia had only one TFL, but Georgia, for a large part of the game, actually won the line of scrimmage. I think it was later in the game where Notre Dame began to win that battle. But for 3 quarters, Georgia, their D-line was winning, their O-line was winning, but Notre Dame had the better skill players. They had the better backfield on both offense and defense, and the better special teams unit, and the better quarterback, and the better coaching staff. The only edge that Georgia had in the game was a trench advantage, and because Notre Dame's O-line and D-line aren't horrible, they're just, I would say a little bit below on each side of the ball Georgia's level. Eventually the trenches just didn't matter. Eventually, things just snowballed, got out of control. The special teams errors, the turnovers, that all went Notre Dame's way because they were the more disciplined team. They weren't as sloppy. Notre Dame tackled better. Notre Dame got more yards after contact. They were straight up the better team. They were the more complete team. Bless me. The more talented team. The, dare I say it, this season, the better developed team. They have great strength and conditioning up there, Notre Dame does. And Mike Denbrock, entering this year, knew that he would have one of the best offensive staffs in the country because of who he is, and he might be the nation's best offensive coordinator. For Al Golden, I got to give him his flowers. I've never really viewed Al Golden as an elite defensive coordinator or that he's had an elite defensive staff, but it's clear that they do. I mean, yes, they have not faced an offense like Ohio State's or even Texas's. Heck, Penn State's probably the best offense they are going to play by a mile in terms of completeness and talent and matchup advantages that they've faced all season long. But what they've done for now 14 games is great. It's honestly very impressive on defense. So Marcus Freeman, whether it's that play where he got Georgia to jump off sides, whether it was his decision to go for it multiple times and stick to his identity, whether it was the special teams as the year progressed got better. I mean, Mitch Jeter, 3 of 3 on field goals from all of them, I think, were over 40 yards in this game. James Rendell punted for over 40 yards per attempt. Whether it was the running backs staying strong, an offensive line and defensive lines full of injuries, playing well, true freshmen playing well in certain spots, young guys. He's developing well. He's coaching well. He's an effective CEO. He commands a great organization. It was the wise move for Notre Dame to extend him before that Notre Dame game. Very wise move by them. Leonard, by the way, finished with a 70.8 QBR, only averaged 3.8 yards per pass attempt. He averaged 5.7 yards per run attempt on the ground, though. There's just a good game plan by Mike Denbrock running him up the middle. Georgia's defense has struggled for much of the year defending quarterbacks who can scramble. As for Georgia, just a few thoughts on them. Gunnar Stockton looked really good out of the gate. At one point, he was, I think, 7 of 8 for over 100 yards at some point. But as the game went on, Notre Dame slowly figured him out. And also, I think that a little bit of the heat wore off because he isn't an experienced player. He is a young player. And once again, Georgia had multiple drops in this game from their wide receivers. They couldn't run the ball, even though their offensive line was constantly getting to the second level in blocking. There's a lot of skill position issues at Georgia. There just is. And I think that Kirby Smart they need not just better players on offense. And I think a lot of that will come with recruiting because they're recruiting well everywhere, especially on defense. But I mean, there's a reason why Stockton was rated as high as he was at a high school. I think he's going to be a good player in the future. I think that he needs a Todd Monken type offensive coordinator. I mean, I think that Monken was a big part of his 2021 and 2022 championships, and a lot of Monken's influence carried over to the 2023 Georgia team. This year's Georgia offense always starts slow, and I think in large part because of the talent they have, especially in the trenches and how their defense works, they get hot toward the end of the games. I mean, they were top 10 in the country entering this game in fourth quarter points per game because they'd get down early and then they would storm back in the second half. But against a team like Notre Dame, you're better off just starting hot because Notre Dame is perfectly content just kind of sitting on you and, forcing you to come back and forcing you to get out of your identity and be uncomfortable. So what a win for Marcus Freeman. What a win for Notre Dame. Program-changing win. Marcus Freeman, this is just for you Notre Dame fans, and also because I don't like Brian Kelly. Marcus Freeman's better than Brian Kelly. He's better, and it might be by a mile right now. He's operating with, by recruiting ratings, a less talented roster, less talented operation than what Kelly has. Kelly is 9-4, 4 losses in 2 of his 3 seasons at LSU. Doesn't look like they're going to win a title anytime soon. Notre Dame could win a national title right now. So kudos to the Irish. And for Georgia, Kirby Smart's still the best head coach in the nation. If he would have simply won this game and maybe the next, this would have been the best head coaching job, I think, of his entire career. Very much so. It's similar to Ryan Day, who I think, he beats Texas. Definitely, if he wins it all, best head coaching job of his career, year to year, just because of the injuries they've dealt with, some of the, I think, poor position coaching, Georgia's wide receivers, and just some issues there. The tough schedule they've played for Ohio State, the tough schedule they've played, some of the issues that didn't come up in the Rose Bowl, but came up in many other games on the O-line or the D-line, not always performing to their ceiling, special teams errors, so on and so forth. I still think Kirby Smart's an elite head coach and commanding one of the best, if not the best program in all of college football. This is a down year for Georgia. They will rebound from this. They will rise again from this. So final score of the game, 23-10, Notre Dame, who punked Georgia, did to Georgia what Georgia does to many other football teams. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also hit that notification bell so that way you can get notified when new content from College Football with Sam drops. I appreciate you very much, and also share the video around to others who enjoy the sport of college football and love it as I do and as you do, and comment your thoughts down below so that we can have a conversation, because I want to know what you are thinking. And join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7 via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Thank you to my Heisman Patreon members, Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Carlo OH. Thank you to my All-American Patreon members, Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye. And thank you to my All-Conference members, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus. Make sure to check out my merchandise store and or Patreon page, or super chat down in the comment section below to support the channel. The Patreon page and merchandise store links are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is December, so Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. I will see you guys soon.